Dauntless Spirit limped through the upper clouds, smoke trailing from the tail and starboard wing. Crew members gritted their teeth as the plane shuddered with every maneuver. The Japanese fighters, sensing weakness, pressed harder, diving and climbing in perfect formation to box the bomber in. 2 o'clock, closing fast, shouted tail gunner Private First Class Tommy Jensen. Tracers streaked across the sky, some clipping the fuselage, some missing entirely. Jensen's hands shook but didn't falter. His shots found their mark, the first of the 14 enemy fighters spiraling into the abyss. Hawk made a calculated descent, hoping the dense clouds could mask their position for a crucial moment. The B-29 groaned under stress, but the crew's determination was palpable. Radio chatter crackled with tension as they reported damage and enemy positions. Below them, the industrial target was a dark, sprawling complex, and Hawk knew that success would depend not just on courage but precision. Bombardier Harris adjusted the trajectory, sweat streaking his soot-smeared face. The fighters coordinated, attempting to cut the bomber's escape route. Hawk, relying on instincts honed through countless missions, executed a sudden banking maneuver. A fighter miscalculated, and his .50 caliber rounds tore through its cockpit. One by one, the fighters fell, yet the tally continued. By the time they reached the target, 4 enemies had been destroyed, but 10 remained, circling like vultures. The bomber's engines roared, a thunderous protest against the attacks, and the crew's adrenaline reached a crescendo. "Payload ready," Harris said quietly, almost reverently. Hawk nodded. The B-29 shook as bombs released, plunging toward the enemy installations below. Explosions erupted on the ground, a testament to their perseverance. For a moment, silence reigned. Then, the remaining fighters re-engaged, realizing the bomber was still airborne, still dangerous. Hawk's heart pounded as he prepared for the next wave. That IT was June 19, 1944, and the B-29 Dauntless Spirit lifted from its Pacific Island base under a low, gray morning sun. Lieutenant Colonel Jack Hawk Thompson gripped the controls, eyes scanning the endless expanse of clouds beneath him. The air smelled of fuel, ozone, and the faint coppery tang of tension. His crew, 10 men of varying ages, all felt it, the unspoken premonition that this mission would become history. They had orders: strike a heavily fortified Japanese industrial center on the island of Truk. Intelligence warned of fighter resistance, but nothing could have prepared them for the chaos that would unfold. Radar had detected a cluster of enemy aircraft above. Hawk felt a shiver of anticipation. Their altitude offered little cover. "Formation tight," he barked into the intercom. Bomb doors clicked open, revealing the deadly payload they carried. Somewhere in the distance, the first puffs of anti-aircraft fire painted the sky black. The horizon rippled with the silhouettes of Japanese fighters, sleek, fast, and menacing. The first kamikaze dove without warning. A Mitsubishi Zero sliced across the sky with the roar of a predator, aiming for the Dauntless Spirit. Before anyone could react, it rammed the tail of the B-29. The impact shook the bomber violently, sending instruments spinning and oxygen tanks rattling. Smoke poured from the damaged fuselage. "Tail's gone. We're losing rudder control," yelled the navigator, fear lacing his voice. Hawk's hands tightened on the yoke. Years of training, instinct, and stubborn resolve guided him. He banked sharply, compensating for the compromised tail, feeling the aircraft's frame groan in protest. The crew worked frantically to stabilize the plane while tracer rounds and the wails of approaching fighters surrounded them. Then almost immediately, a second kamikaze screamed in from the port side. It hit the starboard wing, shearing metal and sending fire along the fuel lines. The bomber trembled like a wounded giant, but it refused to fall. Through the chaos, Hawk's voice remained steady but commanding. "Steady. We're not going down today." The sky was now a theater of destruction. 4 Japanese fighters peeled off from the initial cluster, circling like wolves, waiting for the wounded B-29 to crumble. Yet, the crew, bonded by fear and courage, found rhythm in the panic. Bombardier Harris lined up the payload, determined to complete the mission despite the inferno raging around them. Minutes stretched into eternity as anti-aircraft bursts tore through clouds and fire licked the fuselage. Yet, somehow, the Dauntless Spirit clawed forward, refusing the descent that all others expected. Even as the horizon closed in with enemy fighters, Hawk's thought remained singular: we either complete this mission or we die trying. The bomber, damaged beyond repair, pushed onward, defying death itself. Enemy fighters swarmed with renewed fury. Smoke and fire coursed along the wings, yet Hawk maneuvered with uncanny precision. Each evasive action was a delicate balance between survival and destruction. 5 o'clock low coming in, yelled Gunner Mike Rodriguez. Another zero dove, crashing into the B-29's port engine. Flames licked the nacelle, but the engine held. Hawk adjusted throttle and trim, using shear will to maintain flight. Below, islands blurred into a green expanse. Anti-aircraft fire from the ground added to the chaos, creating a deadly mosaic of smoke, fire, and shrapnel. Crew members moved with practiced urgency, patching lines, manning guns, and keeping the bomber in the air. Private First Class Jensen fired relentlessly. A fighter spiraled out of control, falling toward the ocean below. One down. Another aimed at the tail. Hawk rolled sharply. The wings scraped against the clouds but survived. Hours felt like minutes. The B-29's frame, battered and smoking, became a symbol of resilience. Hawk's voice, calm but firm, resonated. "We're going to make it. Just hold on." Then the second wave struck. The remaining fighters were relentless, but the crew's synergy was flawless. Every shot, every maneuver, every ounce of strength was directed at survival. By now, the bomber had destroyed 8 enemy fighters. 4 remained, circling like predators with patience and malice. Hawk's mind raced. How much more could they endure? Smoke obscured vision. Flames flickered across the fuselage. 2 enemy fighters rammed the B-29 at near impossible angles, tearing metal and igniting fuel. Yet, Dauntless Spirit refused to collapse. Hawk gritted his teeth. The bomber had become a fortress of courage, each crew member a soldier of destiny. Despite the wounds inflicted by kamikaze attacks, they pushed onward. By the way, if you're clinging to this moment with me, make sure to hit subscribe. More awaits just ahead. The remaining fighters attempted coordinated attacks. Rodriguez and Jensen synchronized their fire, taking down 2 more Zeros. Harris prepared a final bombing run on secondary targets, ensuring that even in near destruction, their mission left a mark. The B-29 limped past the last fighters. Engine flames roared. The fuselage shuddered violently, yet Hawk's hands never wavered. He whispered a vow: "We survive. We finish what we started." Against all odds, the bomber descended to safer altitude, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. The mission was not only a success, it was a testament to human perseverance. Flying over miles of ocean, the crew scanned for Japanese patrols. Every shadow could mean death, every signal a potential trap. The B-29's wings were scarred, engine sputtering, tail barely intact. Hawk, sweat and soot streaking his face, guided the bomber toward their base. Every second brought the risk of collapse. Each enemy fighter destroyed earlier reduced threats, but fatigue and fire threatened to overwhelm them. Harris monitored bombsite remnants, checking the structural integrity. Jensen and Rodriguez, with exhaustion lining their faces, maintained gunfire readiness. Every member knew the stakes. One mistake could send them to the bottom of the Pacific. Suddenly, a lone fighter appeared. Hawk banked sharply, fire trailing the plane. Jensen fired, hitting the engine. The fighter spiraled down, and relief washed over the crew briefly. This was the longest flight of their lives. Hours stretched endlessly, but the camaraderie, courage, and sheer tenacity of the crew kept the bomber airborne. At last, the island base emerged from the horizon. Smoke from the engines, scorch marks, and shredded fuselage marked the B-29 as a miracle of survival. Ground crews ran toward the landing strip, radios crackling. Hawk steadied the plane, recalling each kamikaze attack, each enemy fighter destroyed, each life nearly lost. Landing gear deployed. The bomber touched down with a shudder, sparks flying. Crew erupted in shouts of relief and exhaustion. Medical teams rushed to check each man. Minor burns, cuts, shock, but miraculously no fatalities. The bomber, battered but intact, became a living legend. Hawk and his crew were celebrated, their story whispered among airmen as a tale of near-mythical resilience. The mission's success ensured vital destruction of enemy infrastructure and cemented the Dauntless Spirit's place in history. The story of the B-29 that faced 14 fighters and survived 2 kamikaze rammings became legend. Hawk and his crew were decorated for bravery, yet they remained humble, knowing their survival was a blend of skill, luck, and unyielding determination. Historians later recounted the mission as one of the most extraordinary aerial feats of World War II. Photographs of the scarred bomber, reports of destroyed enemy aircraft, and personal accounts solidified its place in history. The Dauntless Spirit symbolized resilience, courage, and the human will to persevere against impossible odds. Generations of aviators studied this mission, inspired by how determination and teamwork could defy death itself. As Hawk watched the sunset from the airfield, he whispered to himself, "We refuse to fall. We prove that even against overwhelming odds, the human spirit soars."